So I always do an intro period here. This is kind of where I normally do my vocal exercises. I don't know if you've ever had to do any vocal exercises if you were in the choir or anything
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
back in the day.
Okay. I always get a nice little how now, brown cow. Unique, New York. Unique, New York. The Human Torch acquired a bank loan today. I always forget there was one kid who came on the show and he's like, yeah, the unicyclist put on a pair of purple pickled pants because I guess the P's really focus on the pronunciation. So I don't know if you have any uh, vocal exercises, but now's the time to get them in.
A little throat clear. That's all I need.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, without further ado, folks, welcome for another Team Handball Thursday edition of Shootin' Straight, a handball podcast with JD and just JD. Max is MIA for the moment. He said he's very busy watching an important live television experience. So when he joins, we'll see what that's all about. But this evening, we're joined by Coach Kevin Carey. Kevin, how are we doing this evening?
Good. A little nervous. I feel like I kind of have imposter syndrome because I know you've had some pro lacrosse players on here before. But yeah, it's I guess I'm crossing off a bucket list item getting on a podcast.
Oh, looks like Coach Andrews is coming in. We're gonna have. I'm gonna have to do some rearranging here. We're gonna have a whole slew of people on. This is gonna be fantastic. So, I opened up the our Zoom to all of the St. Charles coaching staff. So we'll see who all we can get in, and I might do. There he is. All right, Coach Andrews, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Let me
Can you
do.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. I gotta do some manipulation real quick.
Good,
Um.
because I'm watching the end of the Duke Carolina game.
Okay. Good.
Don't tell me the score. I'm rewatching it tomorrow. I hope it's a good one though.
It's horrible.
Oh,
April
It's a
Fools.
really good game. I'm not going to tell you anymore, Charles.
Uh, well, Coach Andrews, you joined us just in time for the beginning of the show, so I'll put you kind of in your own little corner here. I was gonna have Kevin kind of give us a little breakdown of tell us a little bit about himself, and I'll have both of you guys do a little intro before we get into any kind of questions. So whoever wants to go first here.
Okay. I'll let Coach Carey go first.
okay. My background's a little shorter than Coach Andrews and probably not as cool. He flew Harrier jets, so that's way above anything I've ever done. But yeah, I've been coaching lacrosse for 10 years. Got the opportunity as a freshman in college to coach back my old high school program. So it was kind of, I mean, at that time, it was really, I just wanted to do something competitive, wanted to win games, and wanted to be a really good coach. That's kind of why I got into it, to be honest. A little, kind of some selfish reasons, but the thing that keeps me coming back is, the kids. It's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmies and Joes. So,
I like that.
watching kids kind of work through some issues and figure stuff out and kind of have those light bulb moments. That's what keeps bringing me back.
Awesome. I like the Jimmy and Joe's. I like that. I'm definitely gonna definitely use that
Oh yeah,
line.
that line, that saying's been stolen by so many coaches over the years and just passed down to other players.
Cool. Coach Andrews, you want to give a little intro for yourself here?
Sure. Um, I do love that saying, by the way. I first heard that from Coach Tom Foley at Waterston about 15 or 20 years ago, when Kevin was 6 or 5 or something like that. Um,
I was
but no,
13.
there you go. Um, just a little bit of background. I played lacrosse in high school and college at Upper Arlington and Ohio State, and did a couple years in the Marines as Kevin suggested, and went blind in my right eye, got medically retired, and became just a civilian like everybody else, and so started a sales consulting company in 1997, and actually started coaching at St. Charles in '93 with a buddy of mine, Rob Lascalzo. He was the first head coach of that program, and that was the first year. So been there. This is year 29. I actually took a year off to start my business in '98, but but yeah, just I took over the head coaching job almost 2 years ago. Loving every minute of it. Brought Coach Carey on as offensive coordinator, and what a great move that's turned out to be. And we've got everybody else that coaches with us actually played for St. Charles over the years, including you, JD.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's just a little bit about me. I don't think there's anything all that exciting to share.
Eh, we'll get into the exciting pieces, I'm sure, later on the show. So I'm half tempted to just tell Max not to come on. So we'll see. We'll see what state of mind he's in when he does get off of his little TV show. But yeah, why don't you guys give me a little update to inform our viewers on kind of where lacrosse is at right now in Central Ohio and kind of what the St. Charles team's looking like, and as little detail as you want to share for anybody of the enemy that might be listening. Very few, I'd imagine. It's probably mostly only handball people that are watching this. So give them a little, and maybe even and a lot of them don't know a lot about lacrosse, so maybe even a brief little history and just tactics of the game. We'll dive into that a little bit.
That's a lot for one guy. So tell you what, I'll tell you just a little bit about St. Charles maybe and kind of where we are, and I'll let Coach Carey talk maybe a little bit more about Central Ohio and where things fit together. That way we can split this up if that's okay. 'Cause it's pretty loaded.
Of course. Yeah, it was a loaded question.
So like I said, St. Charles has been around 29 years. We've been D3, D2, D1. We're in Division One now. Division One breakdown, I think, in Ohio is around 470 or 480 sophomores, juniors, seniors, boys to be Division One, and we've been Division One for a while. We're 3-2, but we're just a couple goals away from being 5-0. We've had a couple really tight games against Thomas Worthington and Old Tangy Liberty. The great thing I say about our St. Charles kids is they just never give up. We've had a couple letdowns in the third quarter and have managed to always claw our way back in. We've been down by four four goals, a couple games in a row going into the fourth quarter, and have pulled it within one. So we've got a big class of seniors. We have 19 seniors at St. Charles, so our varsity really it's all our seniors plus 6 juniors and a sophomore. So it's going to be an interesting year next year. Last year during the COVID year when we didn't get to play, we had 9 seniors and probably 15 juniors, but we've gained some seniors since then. So overall, I'd say over the years, St. Charles has been not in the very, very top tier, like an Upper Arlington or Dublin Kaufman, perhaps, or maybe a Moeller. But we've beaten those teams on and off over the years, and I think now we're probably as close to being in that top 10 to 15% as we've ever been, at least in Division One. So that's a little bit about St. Charles, I guess. The game, just real quick, and I'll let Kevin describe kind of the competition, I guess, but the game is 10 people on a side, right? And we rotate midfield lines. There's 3 midfielders that go up and down the field all the way. There's 3 attackmen that stay primarily in the offensive half of the field. 3 defensemen that have longer sticks that stay in the defensive half primarily, and then there's a goalie. So, and we change midi lines kind of like you do in hockey. So 3 guys go in, but we substitute offensive guys or defensive guys along with that. It's an interesting game that way, but it's very fast-paced. Ball moves up and down a lot, and the goal, it's a 6 by 6 foot goal, so quite a bit smaller than a team handball goal, but bigger than a hockey goal. And I don't know, an average score might be. I won't tell the score of the Duke Carolina game that I'm watching right now because Coach Carey wants to watch it tomorrow. But maybe an average score might be like what we lost to Old Tangy the other night, maybe 10-9, right? Mm-hmm. Something along those lines. In high school, they say the first team to 10 goals typically wins. That's probably true 85% of the time, maybe, I would say. So anyway, I went on probably a little too long. So Kev, why don't you take it from there?
Oh yeah. So Central Ohio, I mean, over the past 10 years, you're not having like the powerhouses who have those dynasties year after year after year. I mean, when I was in high school, it was kind of us, Worthington, Kilbourne, and Upper Arlington. We saw each other in the state championship like 3 years in a row, and then the next year in the Elite Eight. But yeah, you kind of there's a lot more parity, and with last year with our season being canceled, we kind of I mean, I love to sit there and kind of compare scores. Don't tell the players that we act like we don't look up the scores or look at any of that stuff. But yeah, we kind of don't really know where we're at right now because we didn't have last season, we didn't have the playoffs, so we don't really know what teams were going to be good last year and who they're bringing back this year. So it's kind of yeah, I do. We're just buckling up and getting ready for the ride because we'll see how it goes in kind of the last 2/3 of the season. We're through our first 5 games now. We've probably got what 10 or so left in the regular season. So I mean, yeah, I think this season's gonna have a lot of parity to it. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, I know for me, just joining into the fray here, kind of obviously been away from the game for a while. It's been great to be a part and be back at it. And to Coach Andrew's point about the success and rise, I'd say that this current team has had, the the level of skill is so much higher than when I was playing. And one question I did want to ask Coach
At the
Andrews.
goaltending position, especially.
Yeah. He's got jokes. um,
Don't let Coach Orr fool you guys, you team handball guys. He was one hell of a goalie in high school in lacrosse.
they like to tease me because at the handball level, my title was best in the Midwest. So it keeps going on for a little bit. But with having 19 seniors, you know, what is from a coaching standpoint, and this kind of applies with college coaches as well, but it's even more difficult, I think, at high school because of the development that happens at that high school level. What can you do to make sure that your next class is ready and prepared for that season when you're going to have so many starters getting replaced and so many fresh guys coming onto the scene?
I'll tell you around the end of the season next year. but but what I can tell you is, I mean, that's something that we talked about a lot. Kevin and I and the other coaches, we talked a lot about that, and our our goal is to get those guys developed. And we also at St. Charles, we don't put seniors on the JV, and that was an interesting thing this year because we actually have three seniors on the varsity that have not played since their eighth grade year, and we also have two seniors that started playing last year. One who started playing for real last year, and one that kind of played in his eighth grade year. So the interesting issue is at the beginning of the season, we don't know how good those guys have a chance of being. They might have played years ago, but they haven't played in a long time, and so you can't. What I didn't want to do, I didn't want to take 3 or 4 or 5 seniors and put them on the JV because then they take away development time from those JV kids, and we believe that you're better off being if you're a sixth or seventh attackman or sixth or seventh defenseman that's probably not going to see hardly any time in a game. You're better off playing on the JV and getting all these game reps. And a lot of these guys will get 18 to 22 games where they get reps. Um, Before COVID, it was a little easier because we used to have varsity practice players that played JV, but we've been advised to keep the teams completely separate. So some of those guys that are JV guys now, 3 or 4 or 5 of those guys would have been varsity practice players and got practice reps against the varsity. But now we can't do that. So it's hard. I have no idea how good these guys are going to be. We got 6 juniors on JV, and a lot of sophomores and freshmen, and a small freshman class. So it's going to be interesting to see what next year looks like. I'm already worried about it, and I shouldn't be.
It's the
Coach
joys
Carey,
of
do you want to say
coaching.
anything about that?
I mean, I don't have much to add. I'm really big on, if you're thinking a kid can come up and give you 2, 3, 4 good runs a game, then that's, I mean, you're kind of hindering that kid's development to bring him up just to get him in the game a few times. So that's where we were really like, okay, is this kid a starter? Because if he's a starter, if you're a freshman and you're a starter, we're going to bring you up and we're going to play you. But if you're kind of right below that and we're looking like, yeah, we'll get you on the field, but it might not be for 4 quarters. It might just be for 2 quarters or so. That's where you just got to let the kids get the playing time at the JV level and really let them develop and kind of, take on kids their age. They get to have a little more fun that way. They get to play with their class. You're not pulling up freshmen and they don't get to play with their freshman buddies for another 2 years. So it's, and I'm a former JV coach, but yeah, I'm really big on, if you're going to use a kid as a scout type player, you're just going to get him a few runs a game. That's, just leave them on the JV level and they'll get good reps that way, and that's going to really help them develop.
Cool. Good answer. Good. And as you guys probably see, we're joined by my co-host Max, who's late to the party. Max.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
How are you this evening?
I'm doing great. I love the lacrosse talk. As a former varsity high school athlete, I'm well acquainted with the game, not of lacrosse, rather of a much more physical and challenging sport of tennis. But I see what you guys mean. Like, as a freshman, I would say I was probably top 5,000 in the state, and probably top 25 on my high school team. And unfortunately, we only roll out the best 7 guys in the no frills world of tennis, and I just wasn't there. My sophomore year, I've told the story before, I was banned by the school from playing. It was pretty tough emotionally.
Yeah.
But junior year, I was right with the boys, just like your varsity lacrosse guys. And then senior year, I was medically unable to play, and I was lazy and just didn't want to stay after school. It was a roller coaster.
This is a dream to coach. Max is truly what every coach wants on a team.
But that's why I became a coach, JD, because I know what it's like on the other side.
Right, exactly.
I know how to relate to the boys. I think that's something a lot of coaches struggle with. Like, my guys, like, if they're messing up, they're doing suicides, and they're not stopping until I'm done. And I have these tirades that can go on for a very long time.
Yep.
Because it builds character at the end of the day.
Yeah, something like that. So Max, for both you guys, is my protege coach. He assists me at Ohio State. He owns the semi-professional team we play for here in Columbus. He has all the naming rights to them and kind of controls all of that. So, but Max, what TV show were you watching that delayed your appearance here?
I was watching Top Chef because they have a Columbus guy on from Service Bar, and I love Service Bar, so I wanted to see this guy on it.
What's
and he
Service
was this close
Bar?
to getting voted off, like
Oh
this
yeah.
close.
Okay.
If this guy gets voted off the first episode, that's like the most embarrassing things that's happened to Columbus since like Ameriflora.
You're just tossing out references. I'm missing all of these. Yeah. Okay.
Ameriflora was this big old flower fest that was supposed to put Columbus on the map, and it got called Ameriflop because no one went to it.
All right.
I'm gonna look that one up. I know my Columbus history, and that is not one that I knew.
They don't talk about it. Like the people that were around for it, it's so strict. Like, you can't talk about it.
Okay.
I was there every day.
Oh. Oh, jeez. Oh man. So hitting some wounds here. It's good.
Oh, also, guys, another thing, a detail of this podcast, I don't know if JD's mentioned, is every time that we record while the Blue Jackets are playing, I kind of go a little crazy when stuff happens. So just a quick update: the Blue Jackets are up 2-1 with 7:30 left.
That means that they're going to give up a goal and then go to overtime.
So. Yeah, and lose overtime. Yeah.
Coach Andrews, is that spoiling anything for you?
No, because I was going to just go on NHL.com after this. My
bad, Coach. My bad.
No, I'm a YouTube TV guy.
Oh, me too. Me too.
And we no longer have Fox Sports Ohio, and I was waiting for the day that the Bally's rebrand was going to happen, and they were going to have a standalone package you could buy. And I just read an article today that said that ain't happening.
I'm a YouTube TV guy myself. I was waiting for the same thing. I'll tell you what, though. NHL streams, just Google it. You can get your stream.
Yeah. Now, do they do it locally? Since I was going to buy the NHL package.
Oh, I'm talking a little the less than legal route.
Yeah. Max is all about Macedonian VPN, and
I'm a 62-year-old dude. I don't know the less than legal route.
Coach, if you want a link, I will be happy to link you.
Do not click the link.
Max, you do not click the link.
Oh man.
Are they gonna shut this down? Or are we like promoting illegal stuff? On
No.
No, we've already been canceled for JD talking about some stuff.
Yeah.
And me talking about some stuff that can't hurt us.
Yeah,
more.
not canceled by Twitch, but canceled by Handball. So
we've been investigated by the U.S. Olympic Committee.
yeah.
So really, no one else can hurt us.
Yeah, if we get past that, we're pretty much untouchable.
Now,
I think.
I have a question for you, coaches. Not you, JD. How
course.
annoying is JD at practice about handball?
I try to keep it to a minimum as much as possible.
I already told one of the moms that I was worried that her son was going to quit lacrosse and play handball.
Graham's the only one I want. Like, Graham is the number one. He's my number one target. So if I can get Graham, I don't need anybody else. So that's the
You
only.
guys have any kids that you think could go PLL? Because we're big PLL guys here. Like, I'm probably in the top 10 fans in Ohio.
Are you really?
No, I've just interviewed 2 of them, so I feel like that puts me in the top 20.
What's it?
Who'd you interview?
Yeah, they've been on the podcast.
We had Jake Withers and Greg
Oh
Grenley.
yeah, you told me this, JD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys keep putting all these Face-Off Academy videos, and I'm like, hey, I know this guy.
Yeah, you literally
Oh,
talked to that guy.
the Lightning just scored. Damn.
Thank you, Max, for the update. So Max and Greg could connect because it was Greg's wife's Jewish.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of Jewish talk with him. So he's big. It was during Hanukkah when we were talking with him. But shift gears since Max is a big derailer of conversation. We were talking about the field and lacrosse setup. The box. How big exactly is the box? 'Cause I'm trying to relate this to handball people in terms. Is it 40 yards?
The coaching box or
No,
the
like
box on each end of
the box on each end of the field.
Yeah, it's 20 yards above the goal. The goal's 10 yards above the 10 yards. I got to think about this.
What's the
10
width?
yards above the end line.
What's the width?
The width of the box. God, Kevin, I have to whip out my rule book to think of that and paint it on the field.
Yeah, I'm going to Google.
Man, I'm giving you guys the tough questions.
I need to go get my rule book and look at the field. But basically, the field's 110 yards long. Goals are 80 yards apart, right? And there's 15 yards behind each goal, and then the box comes out 20 yards, but it's not the width of the field. It can change. It could be 60, 55, but the box is. I'd say the box is about 40 yards wide, maybe something like that.
You're exactly right. It's 40 by 55.
Okay.
I had to do it by kind of just looking at the St. Charles field in my head.
Yeah.
And trying to say, okay, how far is that box line from the
side? But the difference is, right, your defenders can't go into the midfield, right? And your attackers just stay in the attack and attack.
Well, anybody can go anywhere as long as you have 4 guys in your defensive half of the field and 3 guys in your offensive half of the field. So,
oh my God! The Lightning just scored again. This is terrible.
Yes. Max just bringing the bad news.
Sorry, Coach Andrews. So as long as you have 4 guys in the back and 3 in the midfield, anyone can go anywhere?
3 in the attacking half and 4 in the back half.
Okay, but typically, you'd keep your attackers up to be one of those 3.
Yeah, but what happens a lot of times is you may be running a defenseman across the midfield, right? And so you'll have a midi kind of stay back because now you got a defenseman. Now you might have 3 guys in your defensive half, and you can do the same thing with clears. Sometimes you'll step an attackman over if you've stepped a midi onto the attacking side. Attackman can come over, get the ball in a clear. Clear is when you clear it from your defensive end and your offensive end. So I mean, there's a lot of times when 1 or 2 guys might shift back and forth, but yes, primarily attackmen stay in the attacking end primarily.
So
yeah, and meanwhile in handball, you got your 6 going up and down all game.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why I was asking about the width, because if you think about it, every offensive set is 6-on-6 with 6-on-7. So you have the goalie plus 6 defenders and 6 offensive personnel. So figuring out what that spacing is to kind of create the same situation. Handball, you have your crease isn't nearly as small, but it creates basically another defender that the defense has to play around. So from everybody from the handball side listening in, I imagine you have a lot more room to operate and the 6-meter area is a much smaller zone. So it kind of creates a lot more ball movement, easier ball movement, I'd say, around the perimeter, less play inside. So handball, you're always trying to work on creating gaps, but the benefit with lacrosse, I'd say, is the defensive schemes with sliding. So, Coach Andrews, if you want to give a breakdown on what happens if you're a midfielder who gets beat, kind of how that slide package might work.
So it's kind of an interesting thing. And I was watching this Carolina Duke game, and Joe Bresci of Carolina had some really interesting schemes for defense against Duke. But primarily what you have is you can have 4 long sticks on the field defensively at any one time. And so we call that fourth long stick a long stick midi or an LSM. And a lot of times, and the other team's going to have 6 shorties, 3 middies, 3 attackmen in the attacking end. And so typically what you'll do, if you just go base defense, you'll have that LSM probably cover that best midfielder on that line, the guy that's most likely to score, or the guy who is really fast and might get around people, and that long pole gives you an advantage. And then let's say that long pole or any midi gets beat. We try to set up a scheme, and I'm going to let Kevin jump in here too some, but we try to set up a scheme where we don't let anybody into the middle of the field. We try to take away the middle. So when we set up on a guy, we'll actually get up next to him and actually face the sideline and try to make sure that, and we'll start running with him to make sure that he can't get either over the top of us or underneath us into the middle of the field. We have slide guys that come to slide, right? And you can slide from the crease, which is the middle of the field, and then have a second slide coming from behind that or from the top, or you can slide adjacent, meaning the next guy in. If you got 6 guys around a circle, the next guy down slides, and then the next guy comes, and the next guy comes, and guys fill in on the backside. And then you can start throwing crazy schemes like trying to lock off a couple really good middies, or maybe even take a shorty and put them on a weak attackman and try to put an extra long pole on a really good midi. If they're midi driven, there's all kinds of things you can do. But when a guy gets beat, typically you'll slide to him unless you have a rule that says, you know what, if that guy gets beat, we're not sliding. If that guy wins, we're not sliding to him because he can't shoot. Because he's a crappy shooter.
Not a threat.
So, but there's all kinds of extra rules. I could really get into detail. I don't want to go crazy. Kevin, I want to let you. Kevin was a former defenseman and midi and D-midi, and I was a goalie. So I didn't know anything except stopping the ball. But Kevin probably knows the defense better than I do, even though he's our offensive coordinator.
I mean, it's a lot. Like, I played basketball too, and defense between lacrosse and basketball are just so much different. Basketball, you're always just kind of square with the guy, where lacrosse, you're always trying to overplay them and take away what they want to do. You want to force them away from the play that they want to run, which is, definitely a lot different than basketball. Basketball, there's a lot of picks, but, we're starting to see that in lacrosse too, and people are starting to use 2-man games a little bit. We saw zone defense this week. I don't know if zone defense is a thing in team handball or not. Not really.
Nah, there's just no point.
To see it from the team we saw it from.
Yeah. So that's how they did a really good job of taking away the middle and kind of making us play the outside. So there's a bunch of different things you can run on defense and a whole bunch of ways to attack that offensively. But yeah.
Do you guys have a face-off guy? That's my favorite part of lacrosse.
We do.
We
got
got
a couple
face-off guys, and that's kind of.
Oh yeah.
We've had some games this year where we're kind of throwing both of them out there, and they're going against one guy, and they just wear him out. Like, that's one guy versus our 2 guys over 48 minutes. That's their face-off guy on the other side is going to be pretty tired from that. And face-offs are so important in lacrosse. You can get extra possessions that way. You can score a goal, come right back, win the face-off, and now all of a sudden you're playing make it take it lacrosse. So face-offs are definitely a very unique thing in lacrosse. I mean, is there anything like that in team handball, or?
Not quite a face-off.
We have pivots who can be like game breakers if they're like, especially in like America, we'll go up against occasionally like a huge guy, like a 7-footer, not a 7-footer, but like a 6'8", 6'9" guy playing in the middle. and they'll just pass right to him on offense, and they can score over and over. But there's nothing like make it take it about it. Like we're switching possession just like any goal sport outside
Okay.
of lacrosse.
Yeah, there's no jump ball or anything like that. It's kind of more like soccer when there's a goal scored that it's just the other team's ball and somebody starts with it off the coin toss. So right after a goal, the ball goes to midfield, and what you'll see a lot of teams do is the court's 40 meters long. So if you just scored a goal, you got to hustle back to get on defense, because if the goalie gets out of the goal quickly and he gets a guy up at the middle of the court ready to go. Oh, what's Coach Andrew showing us?
Yeah, I'm watching right now. It appears the game is over.
Sad news from Blue Jackets.
This is one of the worst blocks I've ever seen. And the camera went to only the opposing goal. Like they stopped showing the game. They had some glitch, so they're literally only showing the other goal. Oh, and oh my gosh, one of our defensemen, Zach Wierenski, just broke his stick on our own post. He hit the post so hard his stick broke in half. Oh, and Nick Foligno just did the same thing.
Wow.
This man, he's holding half a stick right now.
God,
That was insane.
I remember when Torts benched Corpy for doing the same thing a couple years ago.
Wierenski whacked it. Foligno. That's one of the worst fall aparts I've ever seen.
Anyways,
You see if that happened in a handball game?
Yeah.
Like if one of my guys did that to the opposing net, they're doing laps until their parents legally.
Tony would have joined him, so he would have got kicked out of the arena. So
Have either of you ever gotten a coaching yellow card or like 2-minute situation?
I've had a penalty on me as a coach, but it's a 1 minute kind of thing.
Oh, I forgot it was 1 minute in lacrosse.
I've actually been the head coach, I think, for 4 games over my career because our coach got suspended for a game or two.
Yep.
So
we had a famous coach, Tony the Macedonian, where at the start of every game we had to go up to the ref and explain to the ref that like Tony was going to say a lot of stuff and get in his face and like please just like go easy on us because we don't control him. He's the coach, and generally did not go well after.
Yeah. So
that's
we try
a
to
great setup.
barter with the refs. Didn't always go so hot.
And we got JD here, who's famous for getting into a physical bench clearing brawl.
It's only once. It was only
Not a
once.
joke.
It was only once.
I'm only had to tell JD to shut
Yeah,
up one time.
I was that was a big mistake. We talked about that last week on the show.
We did talk about that last week. I tell JD to shut up weekly, so I'm very glad that you showed up.
Put me in my place. No, but Kevin, what I was explaining is off a goal, if the goalie gets it to mid-court pretty quick and the now attacking side is in full sprint, they flip it to them and basically they catch the defense sleeping as they are lollygagging back. So you can get a quick goal in that sense. So that's kind of on the goalie as well as the rest of the guys that just got scored on to be ready for that counterattack. So that's the closest thing I'd say to. It's not really a face-off at all, but the means to get a quick retort on letting up a goal.
Actually, so, and I think Coach Andrews, you're the one that told me that they were thinking about doing lacrosse like that this year, because we didn't know like what coronavirus was going to be like. We didn't know if we were still going to, have numbers as high as they were. So they were thinking about taking away the face-off to kind of, because they were worried about spreading events. So we're kind of happy they didn't do that because face-offs are so unique in lacrosse. But yeah, it was.
Now in Michigan, they did take that away. I don't know whether they've reinstated it or not, but there's a number of states that have done that. And actually, it was the NCAA rule in 1979. When I was playing at Ohio State, we brought a guy his senior year at Ohio State, Bobby Harmon, played at Thomas Worthington. I knew him in high school.
I went there.
Okay, so he was one of the best face-off guys in all of Division III, and we got him to come to Ohio State like for a grad year, and it was 1979. He was going to be our face-off guy, and they basically made it make it take it. So the only face-offs were at the beginning of the game, the 2 quarters and a half, and that was it for a whole season. It was make it take it, and It was the only season I know of ever that was like that. It kind of sucked.
Well, that's kind of. I mean, I guess my understanding on the no face-offs was that was, at least from what I saw from Paul Rabel, was that was the movement towards the Olympic application for lacrosse is that they're moving towards a 6v6, no face-off, smaller, quicker version of the game. So basically the goalie would have, I think, 4 seconds upon a goal being scored to get it out and move the ball upfield. So I don't know how much you guys know about that, or if that's the same situation. It's not really the same situation, it sounds like.
No, I mean I've heard that same thing, and I don't know whatever became of it, but supposedly the Olympic version of lacrosse was going to be very different from the game we play today. It was going to be a 6-on-6 kind of thing,
Yeah.
with a smaller field, faster action, they say, and all that. I honestly, I was so disgusted, I never even followed the news on it. Kevin, did you?
No, I mean, I definitely heard about it, but I don't know. I feel like there's other ways they can speed up lacrosse a little bit. In high school, you can still have 3-minute offensive possessions, but in pro lacrosse and the PLLs, they've got the shot clock now, so you're getting a shot off within 50 seconds.
Yeah, they also have the 2-point line, right? You guys don't have that.
They do.
Yeah,
They do.
I mean, so are there any 2-pointers in team handball?
Only in beach handball.
I want a 3-point
Beach
line.
handball? Are you kidding me? Where do I sign up for beach
Oh,
handball?
NBA.
If you do a 360, if you do like a cool shot.
Basically,
you do
referee
like
discretion. Referee discretion on what is cool.
Style points?
You get 2 points. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's
Or if the
totally
goalie
referee
scores, it's 2 points,
discretion.
too.
Yeah, if the goalie
How
scores,
cool is
exactly.
that?
So the goalie scores 2 points, and if the ref thinks it's a cool goal, you get 2 points.
I love
so
that-
the
I love
ref
that
can
jump
influence
shot
the
there.
outcome of the game by how well you can influence him, whether or not something is cool or
We
not.
do a lot of payment before the games, so.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say that's a little shady to me.
Jake, he has a budget.
That's a little shady.
The referees don't like me because I don't pay them, but so yeah, beach handball is a totally different game. No contact, just 3 steps. You could dribble, I guess. You basically, instead of dribbling, you roll the ball in the sand. It's kind of odd, but a lot of 360s, a lot of alley oops between the legs, kind of things. One question we do have in the chat, well, 2 questions from one of our top shooters, as we like to call him, our number 1 viewer of the show, Martin. He wants to know, because he's unfamiliar with lacrosse, first off, kind of what the face-off process is, and second question, what is stopping a player from just throwing the stick and ball into the goal?
Go ahead, Kevin.
So face-off process, you basically, both face-off guys kind of meet at midfield, right? The ref says down. All right, so you kind of get down, you put your sticks on the ground. Women's lacrosse, the face-off kind of happens in the air. So the ref kind of puts the ball in between, and they just go from there. Men's lacrosse, you get down on the ground, your sticks are on the ground. The ref says down, you get down, says
The
set.
back of the stick is facing each other, right?
Yeah. So back to the
The
stick.
stick's got a top and a bottom, but the bottom of the stick's facing each other.
So the ref says down, then set, and then blows the whistle, and you kind of, it's like you really got to wedge your stick in to try and pull the ball out. And yeah, the face-off guys, man, it's hard to even see what they're doing at that, 'cause they've got so many different moves they can use, so many different. It's like rock paper scissors at midfield. It really is. Every time someone's coming back with a different move, and you have to kind of play that game and try to counter it a little bit.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing because there's a lot of technique and a lot of skill involved in a face-off, but every once in a while, it's also like, this guy's just got your number, and we got to try somebody else, right? No matter what you do, you can't beat a guy, so you try somebody else, and he might have some luck. So as much skill and technique that's involved, sometimes it's just like, I can't freaking beat that dude, and he's not even very good. So yeah, it's kind of funny that way.
Second half of that question being the throwing the stick into the goal. Is that a penalty, I believe, for throwing your stick?
It's a penalty to throw your stick anywhere. So yeah, it could be a 1 or 2 or 3 minute penalty if you throw your stick. Whether you throw it at somebody, throw it on the ground, throw it over your head. Those are all penalties.
That's
And
sweet.
there are different degrees of penalties based on perceived intent.
I got a 1-game suspension once for throwing my tennis racket. There's a no tolerance policy on that.
Jeez. Okay.
Who was a famous Steve McEnroe?
Mhm.
Not Steve.
Yeah,
Johnny
Mac
Johnny
as well.
Mac. Johnny
John
Mac.
Johnny Mac loved
Yeah.
chucking it.
I used to play tennis actually, and that's kind of my tennis coach always told me I like played the game way too angry. He was like, I don't know who you've been watching on TV, but like when you don't get a point or something, you got to pipe down a little bit. Don't be so angry at yourself.
No,
Cool
you got to play
Jets.
angry. That's your motivation right there. I tell all handball players, like, either you're playing angry or you're not playing. And that's why they ride the pine if they're happy. If I see a smile out there on the court, like, they're on the pine.
And that's lacrosse is that way a little too. You're out there getting beat
Gritty.
with a metal pole for 48 minutes.
But
like,
the difference is you can't tell if your guys are smiling because they got the big old helmet on.
yeah.
Our guys are just out there, and if like any emotion, gotta sub you out real quick. JD's known in goal for getting a little too emotional.
True.
Has a little crying fit mid game, things like that.
Yep, you
Things
know
of that
me.
nature.
A lot of
I like
tears.
my guys to smile because I know they're kicking some butt when they are.
Exactly. We're approaching halftime of the show here. If you guys want to join, I'm going to end this segment and restart the Zoom. If you guys want to come back for more questions, don't feel bad if you can't make it, but I do have more questions if you guys want to come back. So,
Sure, I'll come back.
okay, we're going to go to halftime here. I'll end this puppy and start it back up. Hope everybody's enjoying the show so far. Yeah, we should do a film breakdown. This honestly would be pretty sweet. So, love to get the whole team on the show. Looking forward to, more lacrosse talk. I know all our handball people hate lacrosse because all we do is talk about lacrosse on this show. Well, Sam, to that point, they can dive into the crease. So similar to handball, Martin, that they can dive in, but they have to, I think, release the ball and they can't make contact with the goalie. Someone will have to correct me on that one if I'm off base. So
Yeah, you're pretty off, JD.
okay, well, I'll let someone else who knows lacrosse tell me that one, Max. Coach Andrews, one of the questions in the chat right now is, can the offensive player jump into the goal?
Like to score a goal?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
But you can end up stepping into or falling into the crease with your own momentum as long as you touch the ground after the ball goes in the goal.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Max, you got video or not?
Oh no, I do. I'm just watching Stephen A. Smith videos.
God bless. Stephen A. Smith. Okay.
Stephen A. Oh my gosh.
I got a question for you guys. What do you think needs to be done to get handball handball, lacrosse more recognition in America? You guys are way further ahead of us, but like, I think everyone can admit, like, you guys need another step, right? Like, you're like one step behind soccer, and that's just not cutting it.
I would say, I mean, with the youth level, you're really seeing the youth numbers start to increase, so that's a good thing. But you look at like the pro game, and you look at the empty stadiums, and I would agree that we're still not selling out stadiums. I think the PLL is kind of going in the right direction, and I think they're doing a lot of stuff like with social media. They've got really cool highlights. They're really making their players kind of the face of everything. It's so I think they're going in the right direction, certainly with the youth numbers that we love to see that. But yeah, it's, I think it's been the fastest growing sport kind of most of my life. But yeah, it still has a way to go. And I know Team Handball is kind of facing the same uphill battle.
We have a much bigger uphill
it's
battle.
truly Everest, But Martin, I wasn't.
An Ohio Machine super fan.
Yeah.
It was devastating when we lost the Machine. I think it's probably set Columbus lacrosse back 40, 50 years.
I don't know about 40 years.
Back to the beginning of its existence.
Going to Fortress Obetz, there was nothing like it. Like, crossing those railroad tracks in the boonies, you really felt like you were part of something, because like you wouldn't go there if you weren't part of something.
Hey, Max, you and I are both season ticket holders, all right? I liked they having a home, and we are in process of building a home.
I loved it. It was really cool for what it was. It was not worth the money whatsoever.
Yeah, that's kind of that's the weird thing about the PLL. They're doing things a little differently. You don't have like home stadiums. You just kind of travel around. I think it's 7 teams now. All 7 teams just playing a different city each week. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's good for exposure. You kind of go into different places. You're not just playing in the same 7 stadiums each week.
I think it's good for like the middle area that lacrosse is in, but like once you take the next step, you've got to get city franchises because that's what takes people to really buy in.
No, I agree with that. I do think they're taking great steps. And I knew when the PLL was founded, there wouldn't be room for 2 leagues, right? And so the MLL goes down after a year, and now the PLL has added 2 teams. But I think they've done a good job initially because they're trying to keep like college players somewhat together to some degree, right? Like, this team over here, that's a bunch of Maryland guys, or they've done well with that. But like Kevin said, until you get the youth really playing it, I mean, look at soccer. I mean, soccer is the most popular sport in the world, and it's not even the most exciting sport in the world. But like every kid in Latin America and Europe plays soccer, right?
Yeah.
American football. Every kid in the United States plays football. It seems like baseball. Almost every kid plays baseball. Every high school has a football team, a baseball team, a track team, and a basketball team, right? Other than that, you might have you got some that have wrestling, but if you look at most schools around the United States, they've got 5, 6, 7 sports, and lacrosse isn't one of them. And until lacrosse is one of those in 200, 150 to 200 to 300 schools in every state, you're not going to see the popularity like what you see in the Big Four. It's just not going to happen.
Which to me is so unfortunate. Like you take a sport, a so-called sport like baseball. I can't call baseball a sport. It's a recreational hobby.
Hey, we're the lacrosse guys, so we're gonna let you say all this. I'm not gonna.
Baseball is quite possibly the worst thing to ever happen to America. Being America's game instead of a game like lacrosse is criminal. But you take a sport like that and put it up against lacrosse, where you got nonstop action, you got hitting, you got face-offs. I can't imagine being a school administrator in like a sport without a big lacrosse. Like say like Tennessee, I'm like Nashville 80. I'm looking at lacrosse, or I'm looking at my baseball team. I'm cutting my baseball team entirely, and I'm taking their bats and I'm giving them lacrosse sticks.
Interesting take from Matt.
Comment.
We got a lot of stuff in the chat to cover here. So Martin, first off, he's a big soccer fan, so he took some pain to the soccer comments. So I understand the anticipation leading.
What did I say about soccer?
It wasn't as exciting.
I mean, it's not as exciting. It's
not the most exciting sport in the world.
We're all just saying the facts here, Martin. Second question he had though.
Where there can be 0-0 ties cannot be the most exciting.
Fair. Second question Martin had though is, and this probably applies more to Coach Andrews, well, a little bit Coach Carey as well, but do you guys, what impact and to what level do you think lacrosse popularity had to think, I phrase this entirely poorly, how much, I'll just say what he said, how much impact on lacrosse's popularity do you think having it show up in American Pie had? So, and this is something.
First of all, that was a great movie. And by the way, just for your information, I was a Columbus Crew season ticket holder for a long time, so I actually enjoy soccer, and I can love a 1-0 game. But no, I don't know if American Pie had anything to do with that. Just like Arnold Schwarzenegger flying a Harrier in True Lies made anybody else know what a Harrier was. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that had any impact. I don't know, Coach. What do you think? Are you too old to have watched America, or young to have watched American Pie?
No, I've seen it. I know there was another, like I think lacrosse was in The Simpsons once. I think it was on.
I would never have known that.
What that Teen Wolf show or something. But yeah, no, it's I don't know. I think that certainly helps, and I think that's somewhere I've seen a lot more lacrosse videos growing up than I ever have team handball, and that's kind of those are the kind of things you see that and you're like, oh, that sport looks pretty cool. I think I might want to give that a shot.
Yeah, we talked about that. We've had Martin on the show. He's a developer at EA Electronic Arts. He's a Sims developer. So he and I have talked about the impact of just getting stuff more in the mainstream media and just kind of subliminal messaging of things like that. So like for me, if I'm watching a show on Netflix, usually if it's a German show, there'll be handball goals, or they'll be in a handball court at some point in the show. So I'm always like, hey, did you guys see that? So So that's something I always like to. We always try to figure out what more can be done on the handball side to bring it, to a higher light. Because I think most of America at least understands, what lacrosse is at a very minimal level. But if I tell someone what handball is, they're asking if you want to go over to the racquetball club kind of question. So, my uncle played in New York, back in prison, so it's a little different handball. So, yeah, so it's dark times for us. But shifting gears a little bit, Coach Carey being on the offensive coordinator side of things, give everybody a brief tactics on what the offense is trying to do to get the best case scenario for a goal. Like, what is your ideal setup to create a goal?
A lot of motion. I would say you want the defense to not. You want them to not you want to constantly change their roles, right? You want to constantly move the offense around so that the defenders are moving with them. So all of a sudden, one guy is, if we run past someone. If we have a good dodge and get by them, all of a sudden the defense doesn't know which guy they're sending to help because we've been doing a good job of kind of moving everyone around and keeping that motion going. And the other thing too, I think skills matter, right? At the end of the day, you can run really good plays and you can spend your practice time kind of focusing on plays. And that's certainly, that's necessary. You have to have plays you go to, but if your games get scouted, all of a sudden the defense is sitting on those plays that you run. You got to kind of have some motion offense. You got to kind of leave it to the players on the field a little bit to kind of sometimes make it up on the fly. And that's where, I would rather have kids that.
I think he's frozen. I think we lost him.
Okay, we run a million plays, but we spend practice all day working on those plays. So we don't really work on the skills. We don't work on shooting and stuff like that. So for me, I'd rather have more skilled players and kind of spend that time in practice working on the skills than sit there and run a million different sets for, defenses that we might not even see every game.
Okay.
Yeah, like you said, right, earlier, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes, not the X's and O's. And in the end of the day, you've got to be able to execute. It doesn't do you any good to run a great play and all of a sudden have a guy open for a shot and he drops the ball. So you've got to have really solid stick skills and good lacrosse IQ. And one of the things the offense tries to do is, like you said, get the defense moving. Ideally, you want to beat a guy. Nothing really good happens on offense until you beat somebody and then you make another guy come to him, called the slot.
That's the same
right?
same exact concept as handball. You beat the first guy.
And basketball is that way too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
From there, you've got the whole defense rotating. The ball movement kind of becomes easy. You can be patient. The defense is kind of in a scramble situation, and all of a sudden, you maybe run by someone else on the opposite side of the court, and they don't have a help guy ready because they're still scrambling from the first guy that they had to slide to.
Right. Yeah. Without joking, for once, that's the same type of motions we have. We do our biggest play is called overload, and you bring in a second pivot, so the big guy to one side, and you overload that side and hope to get a mismatch when you're working the ball away the other round. Because if you can get through one guy, all of a sudden you have a 4-on-3 type situation where the ball movement's just easier because you can be fluid, you can go where you want, you can pick your spots way better, and then you score.
The slight difference with handball defense, though, is a lot of teams run a 6 flat, which means that there's 6 guys just standing right on the crease. So on an offensive side, you got to beat one guy and you score. Versus lacrosse, you beat one guy, there's going to be another guy that you're going to have to deal with, or maybe 2. So Martin, he's learning lacrosse here. His question was, if the crease is small, playing a 6 flat defense would cover the goal entirely. Sure, you could have all 6 guys on defense just stand around the front of the lacrosse goal, but someone's going to get pelted, and it's going to hurt, and you're not going to want to do that again. So I don't think it's a nice idea.
Credit there.
Yeah. But in handball, I'm trying to work with our guys to run a 3-2-1 defense, which is kind of more similar to lacrosse. It's kind of like a pyramid. So you force them down the alleys, kind of on the side, force them to the sideline, and then you're kind of waiting for the one guy to get beat so the central guys kind of can slide and help out and double team them. So thank you guys for the breakdown there. That was good. I did want to ask you guys a little bit about the recruitment side from a high school standpoint, because that's one thing that we're actively trying to work on, as I've been trying to scramble to find some pro contracts for some of our college guys. So just the continuing that kind of developing of your athletes. How from a coach's standpoint does the recruitment process work? Do colleges come to you guys and say, hey, we'd like to talk with this guy? Do they just go to the athlete directly, or how exactly does that process work in a high level?
It actually, it's a mix of things, right? Our guys, some of our guys play a lot of club lacrosse in the summertime, and coaches see them, and coaches contact them. Sometimes I'll have a coach at a camp, and he'll say, hey, your guy that was wearing penny number 21 and also 35, could I talk to them? Could I get their contact info? A lot of times our guys are saying, hey, these are my top 15 schools, and they start sending emails to coaches along with some film so the guys can see that. So there's a lot of, and there's more ways than that, but that's pretty basically, how a lot of that stuff happens.
Do you guys put together the film for them, or it's on them to?
They typically take Huddle film clips. We've got Huddle, and they can go make whatever film clips they want. A lot of times their parents will film them in summer league, and also now all these camps have these video packages that you can buy, and they charge an arm and a leg for them, and you as the coach or the kid can get the film from your team at the camp, right? So you see a lot of ways where kids can get film and get it to coaches.
Okay, cool.
Coach, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I would kind of say it's more so what you just said, kind of kids getting film out to coaches. I think every kid dreams of like having like a perfect game at a camp or something, and a coach just comes walking up to him like, oh yeah.
Right.
We lost him again.
That happens in handball. We had our old goalie Rusty had one good game.
Oh my gosh.
He got on the national team for it.
Yeah.
Really?
I had one good game, and I talked to the national team coach, and he was about to send me to Paraguay.
It was close. Max, honestly, was close. It was pretty sad.
So Kevin, you got your mic dropped for just a second there.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my connection, but yeah, I would say, it's not a lot of times coaches initiating that conversation. You got to.
We lost him again.
You got to be
JD, do we have
proactive
more?
as a player.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Do we have more
You have to
chat
be
questions? I got a
proactive
big
as a
old
player.
question.
We only have one more chat question, and that is,
All right, let's get through it, then I'll go.
okay, who has the best shot on the team? I don't know who this is coming from.
Well, I'll give you my opinion. Who's got the best shot on the team is Blake Roller, but we got a lot of guys that can rip the rock. So, but I think he's got the best shot on the team.
Kevin, you got any input, or are you frozen?
He looks frozen.
I think he's still frozen. I'd say it's Blake as well. I think
He's back. He's
Oh,
back.
oh, oh.
Yeah, I would say Henry's a number two, kind of right.
Yes.
Like with a lacrosse ball, I would not want to get hit by one of those shots. That thing's going at least 90 miles an hour.
Zooming.
Yeah.
Zooming.
We probably have a couple lacrosse players from St. Charles on this.
Yeah, this is one of our
I know
most
one,
viewers
'cause
ever.
His dad already texted me.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, this this episode so far has had our most average viewers of outside of when we were illegally streaming games.
That's because
on
Coach
YouTube.
Carey's on. Man.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
it.
So it's
So-
my good look.
Yeah,
It is. It's got the good trim beard, and it's wearing a good Nike hat.
Yeah.
He did the good background. Me, I'm on the sofa because I was watching lacrosse, so I get this beat up old 12-year-old sofa I'm sitting on. No good looks here.
Hey, let's look good, play good. That's why we got, when I look at our jerseys and helmets now, from when I played, I think the St. Charles outfit's a lot cleaner. And I know some of the guys are even looking. Coach Finn wants new helmets, so we'll see how that goes. But
Coach Finn wants new helmets.
he wants black. He wanted black with red face masks. So you'll have to talk to him about that.
I'd consider that, but it's 4 years away.
Okay.
Because you make every kid as a freshman buy a new helmet, and it'll last him his whole high school career.
I think he wanted 2 sets of helmets. So he
Alternate
was real greedy.
jerseys.
So okay, I guess a question then, just because I'm a little curious. But what are the startup costs for kind of getting into team handball? Lacrosse, I mean, you're talking about like a $200 stick right off the bat.
Yeah, and a $220 helmet, right? Gloves are $100, $110. Arm pads, shoulder pads.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cleats.
I can take this. Shoes. I never even wore basketball shoes until I just bought a pair. So just whatever shoes I normally wore.
They don't make team handball shoes.
They do.
They do, but there's no point. You just wear basketball.
Yeah, there is. I mean, the
No one outside of you wears team handball shoes.
fair.
You're the only person I've ever met.
Fair.
$30 for a ball, and then a net of some sort.
Yeah, so I mean that's to start a whole team, Kevin.
Yeah.
Like if you just want to come play for the Armada, so Max
You
just
need a minivan though to haul
Yeah,
the team.
exactly.
I mean, we got an RV, so that's
yeah.
about 20,
So I have
20 to 80K for an RV.
I got the RV and the minivan, so I'm fully loaded for whatever the trip entails. So we're ready to go. But Max, Kevin's 6'5".
Kevin, you're playing for us. We will
So-
sign you a contract today.
He's an athlete too,
Yep.
trust me, and he's
I
young.
have my pen ready to go. Listen, back in
Oh my
elementary school,
gosh.
I mean, I was pretty good at team handball. A lot of the kids couldn't even dribble. I was a basketball player, so the dribble.
We don't want you dribbling though. No dribbling.
Yeah, you're
Get that
just
out
a
of your head.
jump
No
and
dribbling.
shoot.
Are
Max,
you gonna post him up?
we don't
Yeah,
need. We
I mean,
could.
at 6'5",
I'd say
I don't
we
want
don't
him
need
dribbling,
to.
so
We don't need him to get hit. Let's let him shoot all day. He's got the
Yeah.
green light.
Like
You know, but
a
that's-
Brett type situation,
Yeah,
Brady.
just like Brett.
That's good though, because my high school basketball coach, he told me the same thing. Just no dribbling, just set screens and kind of avoid the hoop. So I can do that.
Max,
got
can you type
practice
him
in,
up a
what, week and
contract?
half at Thompson.
Yeah. April 12th is when we get practice started, but we'll have lacrosse practice still. So when we get the outdoor league fired up for the summer, we'll have you suit up with the Armada. So maybe you we've got some games up in Detroit coming up eventually, so maybe you can suit up for one of those. So
Hey, I'm game.
Okay.
I'm there.
Perfect.
Max, just send him
Maybe
over
I
a
got my
contract.
question now.
Okay, good.
All right. So next fall, I'm applying to grad schools. My number one choice is Johns Hopkins. They have a great lacrosse program. I have 2 years of NCAA eligibility left. How much work do I have to put in the next year and a half to walk on a Johns Hopkins team?
Well, first of all, you got to be able to say John Hopkins correctly.
It's John's.
You know what?
but,
I say things in my own way as Becky knows.
Shut him down.
if you've never played lacrosse before, but you're like the best.
Yeah, I'm
tennis
pretty.
player
I mean,
ever
I'm
come out of your high
6
school?
foot 165. I'm
Max
pretty
might
athletic.
be one of the most unathletic people I've ever met. So just take that.
I would buy a stick and get on the wall today. You can come
Okay.
use our wall at St. Charles, and we can give you a couple wall ball routines to start working on your stick work.
My 40's about 7'5", maybe 8.
You're up
So
there with me.
pretty sneaky fast. Sneaky fast.
Sneaky,
love it.
right. I'll have to send you guys some of the highlight tape of Max in Denmark when we were playing against some Danish teams.
You know,
was-
I
it was
had some
rough.
difficulty, but
was
everyone has their moments.
Everybody has their bad
But not
day,
mine.
and Max just had all his bad days in one game. It was
Yeah,
it's not pretty.
it was remarkably bad.
You know what I find out, Max, is the older I get, the more bad days I have in every game I play.
Yeah, the
So-
problem was I was 20.
Okay.
Wait, yeah, I was gonna say 19. No, I
Yeah,
was 20. Yeah.
yep. Oh man. So Kevin, you look like you're gonna ask a question there.
Yeah, I mean, what? So in Europe, they probably like grow up playing that sport. What's that like? Kind of getting into the game late and going overseas and playing guys who that's what they do over there.
So to put it in perspective, I took the Ohio State team over there for spring break 2 years ago. They're all college age guys, been playing for a couple years. Very, I'd say solid athletes. We played the U14 team.
U15.
It was
U15.
okay. U15 team at this Danish school, and they beat us 44-14, and they took it easy. That I'll let you know that their coach had told them that we were the American All-Star team, and so they thought they were going to be going up against all these like 6'8" basketball kind of guys. So when they watched people like Max walk in, and they just started laughing. These kids were all. I mean, every single one of them, I think, was over 6 foot at age 15. They were built
Every single one was
built
over
like a
6'2".
tree. I mean,
I
they
was
were.
the shortest one out of every. Like out of their entire team, I would have been.
Imagine a team of shooters like Blake, that kind of shooting speed and power, but with the size of like Jack Lindemann kind of thing. That's kind of what we're looking at age 15. So that was just one random high school in the middle of nowhere, Denmark, that we played. So that's
but JD,
just
when you put it like that, it's pretty incredible that I scored that game.
That's true. Max also pulled up from half court because he thought a guy was tying his shoes and left the goal empty, and then ended up getting stuffed by three guys.
The guy was in front of me, and he bent down to tie his shoes.
No,
so like,
no, he did not. He did not tie his shoes in the middle of the game.
In lacrosse, if your defender starts tying your shoes, you're taking that shot. Like, it doesn't matter from where you're
40 yards from the goalie.
Yeah, and there's a goalie.
No, that's the wrong answer. You gotta give your kids the green light. I had the green light in my head.
Yeah,
I was pulled after that shot immediately.
Yeah, he got pulled. But yeah, Kevin, to answer your question though, I mean, pretty much those kids, it's no different than like UA, I'd say here, or these kids are born with a lacrosse stick. They're born into that atmosphere. In the Scandinavian countries and most of Germany and France, you're pretty much playing handball in the winter and playing soccer in the summer. That's pretty much your life. A lot of them will go to like an academy program where they continue to grow their skills. I mean, a lot of kids I know, like my buddy Abu, he has basically been in a system his whole life, and now he's playing second league France. So it helps that he's also 6'6", but he's a twig. He needs some more beef on him. He's not heavy enough. But that's something that is just tough. The problem is they don't trust the American athlete style. When I tell them that I can take a guy that's a top tier athlete in a lacrosse or a basketball or a football that has the hand-eye coordination, the foot speed, etc., they don't value that as much as the knowledge of the game. Handball is a game that it's just like we talk about lax IQ. You know in the nuances, the tendencies of players and how to move the ball and how to play defense and things like that. That holds a lot more value with the Europeans. So us breaking into that atmosphere is still something we're trying to figure out how to prove to them that we have guys that are capable of picking up a handball. It's not complicated. It's 3 steps, shoot the ball. Kevin, you being your size, you could step onto the court with the Armada, and I think you'd make a pretty quick impact. We've got guys that played D3, baseball at Otterbein. We have some guys that played D3 basketball, D3 football, all on our team. I mean, they're good athletes, and they are far superior than what I would call the European handball guy. But the problem is he knows the games better, so he might not be physically able to perform at the same level. He can kind of manipulate the game to his liking. So just things to think about on that side.
So JD, how do you give them the team handball IQ? In lacrosse, I think in lacrosse it comes from a variety of sports, right? I mean, if you're a basketball guy or a hockey guy, or you're a football linebacker and you understand approach angles and pursuit angles and things like that, and in hockey and basketball, you know how to create passing lanes and get in passing lanes, and you understand how to create mismatches. That stuff all transfers to lacrosse. How can you take these guys that are great athletes in other sports and make them great at team handball to get that IQ, and then go just kick the crap out of some of those Europeans and make them realize the multi-sport athlete's a real thing?
Excellent question. And I would say that all still applies to handball. Still the same, defensive tactics, same offensive tactics. The problem is that the kids that I'm getting at least Ohio State, are people like Max who played tennis, and what am I going to do with Max?
We got football players and some other guys.
That's on the Armada side, but at that level, we
our
are
good athletes are in the Armada.
And the problem is that we don't practice. I mean, we pretty much just show up. The American handball model is you show up one weekend and maybe every other month to play a tournament, and that's it. Maybe you have.
Allen Iverson would have fit well within that model.
Yeah, no. Talk about practice.
Like almost no one's recording these games, so we don't know who we're going up against. So you just show up.
And you could play for whatever team you want each weekend. It's pretty much a free for all. So, we've had mercenaries that just kind of jump ship and play on different squads each weekend, and I've played on different teams within the same tournament. So, I've played for 3 different teams in one tournament. But it's just getting more people playing. That's really the goal for me. That's why we're trying to roll out this 5v5 league come this summer outside, so that everybody can be COVID friendly with it. But as far as getting those athletes integrated, it's not hard. I mean, when I tell Devin and Marcus, one played D3 basketball, the other D3 football. If I tell them, like, I need you guys to cover this zone, you guys need to shut this guy down, force him this way, and offensively, I need you guys to draw and dish. They understand. It's pick and roll. I mean, that's the beauty. Like, if we had 2 guys like Kevin, if we could run pick and roll all day, and it's just hilarious that I try to explain this to the guys at Ohio State practice, that they're like, oh, it's so simple. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't a complicated thing. Now, at the international level, the defenders, they know a little bit more, so it's just getting more familiar with that. And I think just you can utilize, I think what the U.S. team right now is trying to do is utilize the American guys, similar to what we do in lacrosse. Is you have a guy that might not be as stick savvy, you put him at his defensive midi. That way, he can get out there. He's athletic. He can kind of help you out on that sense, but he's not somebody you want controlling the ball. On the American national team level, it's the same kind of thing. You have a defensive specialist, so they come out to the game to just kind of play defense, help shut down. Maybe they're a bigger guy, they can help block shots, things like that. And then when we get on offense, you get them off the court. So, yeah, that's kind of the current state of affairs.
So do you have a shot clock then, like a time limit before you got to get a shot off?
It's the ref's discretion.
Yeah, it's.
Oh.
Yeah.
We got that.
It's always
in
like
high school
school
lacrosse to some degree.
Yes. So that's where
they put their hand up when.
So they'll basically when they feel like you've been stalling too long, they'll call passive. So they'll raise their hand, and at that moment, once they raise their hand, you have 6 passes to shoot the ball.
Oh wow.
So you have to basically be very cognizant of when someone has to be watching the ref at all times. So that when that happens, you got 6 passes from that moment to get a shot off. So it's a little high stakes there. So
yeah, I guess you got to run some good offense. Don't get caught stalling.
Yeah, exactly.
And running good offense is something we've never figured out.
Do you guys do defensively similar to what we do in lacrosse? I mean, you slide to a guy. Do you sometimes disguise that to come from a different place? Do you sometimes lock off a guy? Do you sometimes say, hey, we're never going to slide on that guy because he stinks?
So we have I think we usually run 3 or 4 different defenses. So the 6 flat, everybody's just basically, a step off the 6-meter line. The problem is that in that situation, you're just kind of creating sandwiches. So a guy gets beat to his right, the guy to his right is then helping to his left to close that gap. But the problem is it's got to be instantaneous. So then it's a constant slide one down. So it's a lot faster than lacrosse. We're talking 1-step slides.
Okay.
The 5-1, which is where you have a guy kind of playing up top by himself, kind of being a pest to the passes. If you think of it from a lacrosse standpoint, he's disrupting the midfielder passes. Right. That time you can also have him basically man mark a guy, take him out of the game. In that situation, if you're the guy getting man marked, your best bet is to go into kind of the mix where everybody else is, to just kind of free up the rest of the backcourt players to move the ball freely. We on the Armada like to run a 4-2, so you have 2 guys up top that are kind of disrupting the 3 kind of midfielder players, so that they're not getting easy passes off, and that you're forcing them to make the long pass over to the other one. So if you're kind of like guarding the 2 on one side and trying to force them to bait him, so that the next guy on the next level of the 4 can kind of cut off that pass.
Kind of like a ride in lacrosse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the 3-2-1 is we like to call it the Christmas tree. It's a pyramid basically. So you have everybody's kind of got a small zone that they cover, and then the whole zone everybody has to shift. So we all kind of move over, and that's where I bring the train tracks. That applies in handball. I bring everybody over so that you're not getting caught up on what's happening on the opposite side of the court, because we want them to try to make that pass, because it's not going to happen, especially at the U.S. level. So yeah, that's kind of how defenses are run for us. The problem is that we don't have enough guys that understand that kind of defense. It's tough to get them used to the physicality piece. I mean, obviously with COVID, we haven't been able to do anything. But when I tell a guy like Max, who's played tennis and never played a contact sport in his life, to go up and say, "I need you to tackle this guy on a basketball court," it's not exactly a concept he's familiar with. So it's really what you want to do is like a form tackle with football. So you're kind of bringing both their arms down, and it's all chest to chest. But you don't want to take them to the ground. You're just kind of hitting them as hard as you want. And so it's hard for people to really gauge that what is and is not okay. So it takes some time, but that's defense in a nutshell. It's very similar. Yeah.
How big is the goal?
It
I
is.
can't remember how big the goal is.
It's
Is it
3
like 12 by 6 or something?
3 meters by 2 meters, so 10 feet wide, 6 feet tall.
Okay.
So just, I always imagine it to be, basically like 2 lacrosse goals side by side, 2 and some change. So
So do you look for like old soccer goalies?
I personally hate having soccer goalies play a handball goalie because they like to dive and do a lot of low stuff.
Way too much.
And they don't understand that just because you drop to your elite knees every time, I'm just going to pass it right over top of you. So I try to honestly, a lot of lacrosse goalies end up playing handball goalie. It's a weird thing that we've seen. But yeah, that's kind of the goalie situation is just anybody that's willing to get pelted. Because the problem with goalies, you have to be, at least in lacrosse and all goalie sports, is a strong mental capacity to be willing to take on a lot of shots. Hockey, you're saving most of the shots you face. Lacrosse, it's somewhere a little less than 50% maybe. And in handball, okay, yeah, and
should be.
Yeah,
Girls
should be.
is like 30%. Guys
Yeah.
are like 50 to 65.
Well, handball, a good handball goalie is somewhere in the 25 to 30 range. So you are pretty much, and you're giving up 30 goals a game. So it's not, you're just, there might be a game you have one save, and it's like that
Unless
was,
you're that Danish team that
Yeah.
only gave up 14.
yeah.
Even their goalie wasn't like that crazy good.
We just sucked. So
You better than him, Max?
I think there were times in my life where I could have played better than him. Like maybe that one time out of 100, but
hey, that's one time. So
You know what? I like the confidence.
I was a top level handball goalie for about a week until it got to my head and we had one tournament.
take a couple shots to the face, that'll end it. So
I took a big old ball to the face and I was done.
yep. Yeah,
That's I bet that hurts.
It's-
I bet that hurts a lot.
I mean, what is
Yeah.
that like? What does a handball compare to? Like one of those red dodgeballs?
no.
Or
It
is it like a smaller soccer ball?
it's
Yeah,
like
a mini soccer ball.
it's like
and
if
a
you
little harder.
combined a soccer ball with a football. So it's kind of like a thicker leather than a soccer ball is, but it's the size of a kid's soccer ball.
So
So
goalies might wear a cup just in case.
goalies definitely wear a cup.
Absolutely.
And they'll have a padded jersey. So the jersey will be padded on the sleeves, on the arms, because you take a lot of arm shots.
Kind of weak.
Yeah, it's trust me, when those balls are coming at 140 kilometers an hour at the pro level, so that's
Sadie, no one knows what that means.
it's about
Just say-
85 miles an hour.
Yeah, I
So
gotta pull out my
Hey,
couch.
Max, do you know what a lacrosse ball is like?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've like played around for fun a little bit.
Goalies
I would
don't
not
wear
want to get hit with
pads
that.
on their arms or legs. for
So-
lacrosse.
I had a buddy who played D3 lacrosse, and he'd like come to school and just covered in welts.
Yeah.
yep. So I just wear a long sleeve shirt. That's all I wear, and
Yeah,
sweatpants.
that's what like in
um,
America most of them.
I
do,
know
just
the
long sleeve
the
shirts
pro
and
guys
stuff.
have pads in their jersey. So,
Okay.
but yeah. You guys got any other questions for us as we come to the close of our second session here? I'm good for probably calling it a night here if we don't have any more questions.
So real quick, I mean, I always kind of wanted to know the story of how you started Team Handball at Ohio State, but you probably told that on your podcast. So
No,
I want to hear that
I'll-
one day after practice.
All right, I can give you the quick synopsis.
I'd love to hear
So,
it because all of a sudden it's like I'm hearing about this guy JD Orr, former St. Charles goalie, and that played for us, and he's like the Team Handball guru. And I look at your email signature, and there's like 17 titles, world this, European, this, whatever. And I'm like, JD?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. It's been a wild ride. It's one of those
Yeah.
situations where you just keep rolling with it, and it just hasn't stopped. But, we always played handball in the neighborhood. That was kind of our neighborhood game growing up. And when we saw it in the 2012 Olympics, I just sat there with my dad and was like, why does Ohio State not have a team? I went and got some buddies. We just got together and started playing pickup basically, and I went to the president's meeting, and the guy sitting next to me was the brother of the men's national team captain who happened to be moving back to Columbus. So he became our coach. He got us balls, he got us goals, he coached us every practice.
And now he's a professional European coach.
Yep. So he wants me to follow in his footsteps, but my wife doesn't want to move to Europe, so that's the difference between he and I. Kaylee said we couldn't move to Europe unless I bought her a castle, but unfortunately, to her case, castles are only about $400,000. So depends on what kind of castle you want to live in. But
I guess.
yeah, so that's pretty much
Maybe in
it.
10 years, you'll be able to buy her that castle.
Oh yeah. I think she makes all the. Well, I make more than her now, but there was a time where she was the money bag, so that's good.
Trust me, they only get more expensive as they get older.
Yeah, I can
I know
imagine.
from experience.
You know far too well. So. But yeah, this has been fun. We got less than a minute left, but thank you guys both for sticking around and answering all the questions and explaining everything to all our viewers. So I hope everybody's got a better understanding of lacrosse. So it's been great.
Loved it. Thanks, JD.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank you
Max.
guys.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was great.
We had a good time.
Yeah, I feel famous now. Like
Yeah.
I've been on a podcast. Like, you can cross that off the bucket list, I guess.
It is.
The biggest live handball podcast in America.
Number one
Love
live
it.
handball
I've been on
podcast in the
Lacrosse
world.
show back when that was a thing.
Excellent. Cool.
I remember that.
All right.
Anyway, thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. It was really fun.
Good.
Honored to be here.
Excellent. We'll
Yeah,
we'll do
thank you
more
guys.
later in the
Hey,
season. We'll have a
Give
recap.
give
All right.
JD some shit at practice.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Always.
Send that contract my way.
Yes.
Send that to me so I can sign it.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. That was on almost perfect timing there. So make sure you find Coach Andrews and Coach Carey on the Twitter and Instagram machines. It's been a good show, and we'll keep you guys tuned in to how the St. Charles lacrosse team does this season. If you got any questions.
This is my story, my name is JD, trying to look for a chick to call me baby. I'ma treat her well, cause that's where it's at. Don't matter to me, I'm a friggin' doormat. Most chicks